What's up, everybody? Charlie Marlow here. Had to jump on and do a video day after Christmas. I'm thinking, look, it's that time of year that a lot of people are off work, probably bored, maybe traveling, whatever it is. You want some baseball content, you want some Cardinals content. Let's talk a little bit about it. Even though not a ton going on, this is kind of that period where you're probably not going to see a lot of activity, transactions, I would think. Normally we don't. Between Christmas and New Year's, you got about, 3-4 business days. I guess technically today. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Do you do something Saturday maybe before it's New Year's Eve? Although we did see a deal. Was it Christmas Eve that Mitch Garver signed? Was that Christmas Eve? So I guess the baseball calendar's weird. So maybe we'll see something this weekend. I don't know. But I was shooting a premium member video for the channel here. Our guys Ken Phelan and Gay or G2Z. And I was talking a little baseball. I figured, hey, I might as well jump back on and just talk to everybody because, again, there's not a lot going on. And I think during the holidays, people still want to throw in their AirPods, earbuds, and listen to a podcast or talk a little baseball. And let's be real, there's not a ton new to report, but I think over the last week, I've been thinking about something, and I know I talked about this a little bit on the radio, Hot Take Central, 590 The Fan, 590thefan.com. It was either Thursday or Friday, but I think something we forget with baseball, especially with the Cardinals, is we can bitch and complain about the Cardinals all the time of not spending enough money or not getting the right free agents, and I think sometimes we forget that it is a two-way street. It takes two to tango. You need to have these players that actually want to come here and sign here also. And I think that's a big component of this that we often forget about. And the reason I'm talking about this right now is there were two guys in the last week or so that signed elsewhere that the Cardinals were interested in. One, it looks like seriously. The other maybe kicking the tires. But I'm talking about, let's go backwards first. So Tyler Glasnow. Tyler Glasnow does an interview with Foul Territory, which is a really good show with AJ Przinsky and who else? Eric Kratz, Scott Braun, bunch of guys are on that show. And he mentioned the Cardinals were a team that was interested, but he also threw out Chicago, the Reds, I think a bunch of teams. And he didn't know exactly the level of seriousness of interest. But because he mentioned the Cardinals, some people talked about it. And then so he ends up signing an extension with the Dodgers, and it ends up being, a 5-year deal for about $136 million. And remember, Tyler Glasnow was going to make $25 million this year, and then he was going to be a free agent next year. So he had a very interesting situation where he basically created his own free agency by saying, look, if you trade me to a certain team and I want to stay, I will negotiate an extension with said team, and then the package can be different in terms of prospects because you're going to get the guy for 5 years instead of 1. So let me change hands here. I feel like my hand was shaking there. It's kind of cold out here. So the reason I bring that up is, let's say the Cardinals were interested in Tyler Glasnow. It seems like they were, a little bit at least. Well, he has to want to come here, right? And if you watch that interview on Foul Territory, it was very obvious that Tyler Glasnow only wanted to go to the Los Angeles Dodgers. That's where he wanted to go the whole time. He's a California guy. Even if you watch him, he has a California way about him. The Dodgers are a freaking super team. They're able to pay him that deal, even though he's hurt a lot. Let's be real, he's hurt a lot. Still got a great extension to go to the Dodgers. So, again, even if the Cardinals wanted to sign him, wanted to give him an extension, maybe Tyler Glasnow really only wanted to sign with the Los Angeles Dodgers. And I think we have to remember that. It wouldn't make a lot of sense for the Cardinals to give up a huge prospect package for a guy who would come here for 1 year and then potentially not sign an extension. So that's what this video is about. Tyler Glasnow, and then also this reliever from Japan, is it Yuki Matsui? So it was reported that Yuki Matsui came to Busch Stadium to meet with the Cardinals. I can't remember who reported that. I'm not trying to not give them credit. But so he visited Busch Stadium, and he ends up signing with the San Diego Padres. At first, I feel like there was a report that it was 4 years, $21 million. But then I just checked some different articles, and So it's 5 years, 28 million, and there's some opt-outs and whatnot and option type situations, but the money's 5 years, 28 million. And I think when that money came out, a lot of Cardinal fans I saw on Twitter were like, well, why the hell did he go to the Padres? Like, that's not a tremendous amount of money. Like, why couldn't the Cardinals do that? And so I don't know, but I'm guessing the Cardinals, if they were to make an offer or if they were close to it, they probably would have given a similar amount of money. That doesn't seem like a crazy amount of money at all. 5 years, 28 million. So what are we talking? Basically like 5.5-ish million per year. But this is another thing that I think we don't think about is the guys have to want to come here. So think about these pitchers from the Asian leagues, Japan or Korea. Now, John Mozeliak said this in his press conference. What was it? Was it a couple weeks ago? I think there wasn't a press conference for Lance Lynn. I don't think there was a press conference for Kyle Gibson, right? So it would have been the press conference for Sonny Gray, and he was talking about some of these other pitchers. At the time, I think it was more about Yamamoto. But John Mozeliak basically said, look, most of these Japanese guys, these Asian pitchers, end up on the coasts. So we've seen it with Ohtani. Ohtani ends up with the Dodgers. Yamamoto ends up with the Dodgers. Now, I'm specifically talking about this Yuki Matsui. He ends up with the San Diego Padres. So look, here's a guy. Maybe he wants to go to a market that has more Asian people. I don't know. Maybe he wants to go with a team that has more Asian players. Is Lars Nootbaar not good enough? I don't even know the composition of the Padres in terms of Asian players. I'm not going to lie. But also, maybe you want more of a big city feel. Maybe you want the weather of California, San Diego. Maybe he didn't love St. Louis. Here's another part we don't really talk about. This dude was a closer in Japan for about 10 years, putting up big-time closer numbers, saves, 30, 40 saves. I think he had 39 saves last year. Check on that. I believe I read that. I just can't remember. I think he had like 39 saves. So what if this dude wants to be a closer? He wants to be a closer. He wants to have the ball in the ninth inning and continue his role that he had in Japan of being a closer. Well, what if he meets with the Cardinals and he's saying, what's my role? And the Cardinals are saying, hey, we want you to be one of our super high leverage relievers, get some closing, some save opportunities, but we have Ryan Helsley. So Ryan Helsley's going to get a bunch of save opportunities. Maybe he gets most of them and you get the second most, Hopefully Ryan Helsley has 30 saves, 35 saves. Maybe Matsui could have gotten 10, 15, being a high leverage guy. That's probably the role he would have had with the Cardinals, and maybe he didn't want that role. Can't you understand that? A guy who's been a closer for 10 years over there in Asia, he wants to come here and he wants to be the man in the ninth inning, get the ball as a closer. That's another thing we don't really talk about enough probably is role. So not only do these guys want to come here, they have to want to come here. They have to have the right role, especially if they have other suitors, like the Padres, a team that spent a lot of money. Our guy, Mike Schulte, the manager out there. Obviously, the Padres were a disappointment last year, but they've been pretty good in previous years. They just traded Juan Soto, but you'd think they'll contend. They were kind of a team like the Mets last year that spent a ton of money and didn't do well, but I would think the Padres will be able to bounce back. They got a pretty good team. So Matsui, though, he can be the closer there. He wouldn't be the number one closer. Maybe he'd be the 1B closer, and Helsley's the 1A. So I think we forget about this sometimes with free agency, is that you got to have a great offer, and the guy has to want to come here, and the role has to be the right role for these guys who are in free agency so they get to pick where they go. And I made this joke on the radio a couple weeks ago, and it was a joke, but it's really not that much of a joke. It's kind of true. The joke was, well, the Cardinals, the only guys that want to come here are 35-year-old dudes that live close by. And that's kind of true. Look, Kyle Gibson went to Mizzou. Lance Lynn lives an hour and a half away, used to play here. Sonny Gray, 35, whatever he is, 34 years old, lives in Nashville. So it's a joke, but it's kind of true. And that's why you can't be mad because, look, you need to get guys who want to come here. And sometimes you have to pick from the ones that do. And you say, why didn't you sign this guy? Why didn't you sign this guy? Well, maybe they didn't want to come here. And you know what? Lance Lynn wanted to come here. Kyle Gibson wanted to come here. Sonny Gray wanted to come here. So I give the Cardinals a solid B so far. I do think they're going to add a higher leverage reliever, probably 1-2 year deal for a guy that makes between $5 and $8 million, something like that. Jordan Hicks Could he come back? He might be the one reliever that gets a 3-year deal that's in that bucket because he's really young. And I'm not talking about, Josh Hader's in there too, but Josh Hader's going to get a ton of money. So I don't think the Cardinals are going to be in on Josh Hader. But somebody like a Jordan Hicks, I think, is on the table. If he wants to come back, he's a Texas guy. What if the Rangers are interested? What if the Houston Astros are interested? He wants to be closer to home. And he's already been here for, 6 years. So maybe he wants to change the scenery. All these things that we have to consider when we're talking about MLB free agency. All right, I'm outside. It's cold. It's windy. And I can hear my daughter actually yelling for me in the house. So I got to go in. It's day after Christmas. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. Happy New Year. I'll jump on here again before the end of the year, talk some Mizzou, Ohio State and all that. But I got to go. My daughter's yelling for me. Hope you had a Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Just some content for the week after Christmas, before New Year, to get you guys talking baseball. All right. See you guys. Thanks a lot.